But how
Yeah.
were you part of the We Make Music event recently that happened?
So yeah, so Keep
Yeah,
Music Live. So it's basically called Let Music Live. So I've
yeah.
been very fortunate, actually. I'm glad you asked me about that. So my incredible friend and colleague Jess Murphy had this amazing idea, sort of 2 weeks ago, after the sort of recent government announcement about sort of viable jobs. And of course,
Mm,
all of us creative freelancers just felt so let down and hurt by this kind of statement of, what even is that? What
yeah.
is a viable job? What does that even mean? And so she put out a sort of just a normal Facebook post, and
Hmm.
she said, oh gosh, is anyone up for doing the Rite of Spring in Parliament
Mm,
Square? And then suddenly all these people kind of responded, and I was one of the first to respond and say, gosh, I'd be really up for that. And long story short, within 3 days, she'd created a Facebook group of over 2,000 people.
wow.
And basically what she did is she had a team of about 13 of us sort of volunteer, what we've called ourselves the volunteer organising team. And what we've basically done is we've essentially like helped with all the different roles that were needed. So we literally, just sort of formed the concept and formed the idea, and within sort of 8 days, we were basically ready to go. So
That's
it's been
incredible.
a really amazing exercise in seeing how like freelance musicians, even if we're not sure about certain things, like because we're so used to doing so much ourselves,
Hmm.
we managed to make that happen. And I think, it's a testimony to Jess's leadership and to her incredible, inspiration of actually just continuing this idea she had. And then so we named the campaign Let Music Live.
Yeah,
And yeah, 400 musicians came together in Parliament Square, and we played 20% of Mars from the planets, and that was
yeah,
to represent the 20% help that only that's been offered to self-employed people, and also to kind of represent the fact that so much music is not happening. And then we had a
yeah.
2-minute silence at the end, and that was to represent the silence in the industry. And I just feel so proud to be part of it, and so many people I think have been uplifted by the experience. And as you've probably seen, we've had quite a lot of coverage on the press,
Yeah.
and the point was that we wanted to get the message across. And I'm so proud of Jess, and proud to be her friend, and just that she was able to call on me to help. And
Yeah.
we've sort of just been, everyone's been on Zoom till 2 a.m. and like running around. And sort of, I've been driving slowly back from Scotland where I was visiting a friend.
Oh,
And so I'm
really?
sort of like in the car for like 5 hours a day, kind of trying
Wow.
to go on my WhatsApp. And like, it was hilarious, stopping at the kind of service stations and like getting like sucked into the latest WhatsApp for like tasks. And,
Yeah.
so to be honest, I don't know how everyone's pulled it off, but they're just an amazing group of people. So
That is
I'm very
incredible.
privileged to be part of it. Yeah.
No, I can imagine because, like you said, did get a lot of coverage from like ITV and BBC News to everywhere in between, and to get 400 people together at Parliament Square in such a short amount of time, 2 weeks, you said, and then
Yeah.
in a week had 2,000 people interested and so forth. I mean,
Yeah.
the planning and so forth must have been out of this world. I mean, where do you even begin to organize something like that?
That's a really good question. Actually, I know that Jess has been asked this a lot in
Yeah,
her interviews, because obviously she's very much the sort of face of our brand. So I feel really I feel very proud to even be able to talk about it with you, because, essentially she's so brilliant and just is so informed about everything that's going on for musicians at the moment. But basically it was kind of a question of divide and conquer. And I think sort of various people just seem to kind of, I think like we do as musicians, Georgia, you sort of know what you're good at, and the
hmm,
thing, or more, that the thing that you enjoy.
yeah,
So think with admin as well, like some people were really into like, so like Una Palliser is brilliant at social media, so she was on our team. So she said, oh, I'll do the socials. And that was
hmm,
with Leslie Roberts as well, another great violinist. And then this amazing violinist Claire Raybould, she is amazing at organising sort of, the kind of really big kind of spreadsheety. She did a grid for the whole orchestra, and it was so beautiful. It was like a painting, this thing, and
wow,
she'd literally gridded out, because of course the most important thing, as Jess was saying, was that we had to be socially distanced. Like obviously there's no way we could have pulled this off if we'd had any problems from safety point of view. It just would have been, well, it's just not viable. That would be not viable.
yeah, of
That's
course,
when we'll use the word viable, Giorgio.
yeah.
So it was just so, even the grid itself, it looks like a work of art. Claire must have literally, I don't know. That's where, it was so great, because on the team of, there were actually, I think 12 women and one
Mm.
guy on the organising
Oh,
committee. So
wow.
we've got this wonderful, we've got this wonderful guy called James Top, who's also part of the MEU. And they were hugely, by the way, behind this whole thing. So Musicians Union and We Make Events, who are an incredible organisation that have started since COVID lockdown, and they are really leading the way in terms of, you know, organising the industry into one. They've also organised this thing called One Voice, which you may have heard of, which
I've
has
heard of
just
that,
come
yeah.
out today. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sort of, they actually really got behind us, and I'd sort of said to Jess, oh, you know, initially right at the beginning, I'd sort of given her a ring, so, oh my God, I love your idea, and you can do anything, I'll help, you know. And she said, and we both said, or maybe we should contact We Make Events, and she did reach out to them, and that was so brilliant that they supported her, because they've got all the kind of health and safety experience and all the kind of ticking it. So between them and Jess, they kind of figured out, like, because you have to do a risk assessment, you need a permit, you know, the police need to be informed, and you know, there are certain things that are just not allowed. I mean, it is a national sort of what would you call it, not a monument, but you know, it's a national place of importance. So it was an enormous amount of box ticking, but I think because Jess obviously took on the bulk and then just threw stuff out to us, so she was like, can somebody do this and this, and it just sort of worked, Georgie. I mean, I'm sure much like when you organize your hip hop orchestra stuff and I do classical kicks, you kind of, you know, if you've got people around you, like, it's amazing what you can do with a group of like really motivated musicians. I think we're such hardworking people that even if we're not trained as administrators as such, we sort of know how to get stuff done. Do you know?
Of course, because
So,
that's one of the many reasons why I started the podcast as well, actually, is because people don't realize the amount of work that we have to do in order to get further. And people think that we literally just turn up, perform, and then leave. When really, like you said, about the administration, to the planning, the organization, safety measures, to getting the members, writing the music, the emails, contracts, documents, whatever it might be, there's a huge amount of work that we have to do in order to do what we do. And that's why I was so keen to find out more about how the whole thing works as well. And did Jess and yourself expect it to be as big as it was as well, or?
Well, again, I mean, I think I must keep mentioning it. It was a lot of us. So it was myself and 12 others, and also this whole team from We Make Events, this whole team from the Musicians Union. So, you know, I think there was obviously a lot of people doing their little bits, and I did my bit, and everyone did their bit, and it was sort of, but you know, Jess was very much driving the whole thing and created the idea, as I said. I mean, no, I don't think we did it. Also, it's very important to mention we had an incredible amount of help from two PR people who, I mean, it would have been impossible, I think, to really do it properly without that. And they very kindly, you know, gave their time for this particular event, which, you know, was incredibly generous because, you know, like us, everybody has lost so much work this year. And
of course,
you know, they've just, so Nikki Thomas and Sinead O'Carroll, they really need a mention because they were just incredible. And I think their sheer sort of legwork and just working through the night to get the press involved, you know, meant that, I don't think any of us perhaps realized just how huge it was going to be. And I know Jess, if I heard Jess say the other day that, you know, she's, you know, initially it would, you know, she said it stemmed this idea, you know, from doing the Rite of Spring and with some mates. And then suddenly it was like this whole movement. And I think once we realized it had become a movement, I guess, you know, there's now this feeling of like gravitas, you know, that we've done something that it's everyone, it's all those 400 people, it's everyone else that's supporting us on Facebook. It is an entire movement of people. And there's been several kind of ways. I think it's important to mention there's also sort of a bigger like WhatsApp group of those that performed, of nearly like as many as you can have on WhatsApp, which I think is like 280 or something. And that one has been amazing because so many ideas have come from this. It's very important to mention it. It's been a very, I think Jess is so good at approaching things from a kind of what's the word, a totally communal kind of approach. So she's really kind of consistently stayed in touch with people, and it's so lovely because, you know, some of the suggestions that were on Facebook, you know, have become things that were done. And I think that's exactly how you run a movement. You know, you have to kind of pay attention to everyone because,
of course.
And I think in doing that, it was so wonderful to see because you could see people's spirits being lifted. And I think, you know, we are such sensitive souls, and it's the reason why we love what we do. But aside from the genuine concerns of financial, you know, long-term security that we have, but now with the sort of shutting down of the industry, we're like, well, really now what? Because 6 months are up and anything that we had money-wise is now running out. You know, I think also, you know, it's the obvious point that everyone's mental health has just been in the gutter, you know. So I think just to see people happy and kind of uplifted or even moved or even in tears, you know, just to have that sense of feeling again and kind of feeling of connection. So I mean, it's definitely a movement. It's begun. It has already quite a strong following on the socials, and we're already talking about what we're going to do next. So I'm very proud to be part of it moving forward, and I'm really excited to see what Jess sort of, you know, decides with us all to do next, and we'll be there, and I hope to see you that, you know, I hope like more people can join. I don't know what we're going to do, but it needs to keep going, because unfortunately I think, you know, I appreciate the government has had a lot, any government would have a lot on its plate, but I think there are some decisions that could have been made better, and it's really sad that some of the most sort of hard-working individuals who could really cheer up the nation, you know, because that's what we're here for, right, is to make people feel better. And everyone on the radio is talking at the moment in general, aren't they? Every sector's talking about mental health and kind of how that's going to start really impacting, and we're here to make people feel better. And so I just think, well, but we should be supporters so we can make everyone else feel better, you know. So it is a kind of, doesn't make sense to me that isn't being thought of, and we're going to keep pushing.